Let's move on then to health issues. Welcome to the programme.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Well, we've been reporting for a very long time on abuse and neglect of people in hospital and in care homes. And indeed, we've just interviewed one of our very own UK column viewers and subscribers, Hilary, about the treatment that her mum received in hospital. And that interview will be going out in the next couple of weeks, so please watch for it. But this next article from The Independent, I can say now that actually they're starting to catch up. So they're saying that elderly people are being treated like animals, left begging for care. So this segment is for you, to the chief nurse, Dame Ruth May, because this should never, ever be happening. Let me introduce you to Thomas Giles, who was treated like an animal. He's 96, from Mersey and West Lancashire. He was found semi-naked, distressed, delirious, choking on his own vomit because he was so heavily sedated. Next, we have 99-year-old Catherine Hoddell, who says that she was better off at the vet. Queen's Hospital, Burton, Derbyshire, had a fractured spine. She was sent home with paracetamol, but when she was readmitted, her family found her the next day looking woeful with a dead woman in a bed next to her. Next, we've got 86-year-old Joan Stevens, treated like meat, a former nurse at Stoke Mandeville Hospital. She had a fall. She was left in soaking pads. She was fed, but when she was fed, she had the food shoveled into her mouth so quickly she nearly choked on it. She went into hospital mobile and came out immobile. Next, we've got 94-year-old Rob Gladding, who was left in soaked sheets. He comes from Poole, and he had an overflowing catheter bag. And this is just simply heinous. This should never be happening. It would never be happening on my watch. So going on from there, let's look at AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca have now invested £650 million in Cambridge Life Sciences cluster and Liverpool vaccine manufacture. And AZ are set to be working with the UK HSA. I can't see that working out well. But let's remind ourselves, AstraZeneca, Sir Pascal Soriot, who has received the Terra Carta seal. And let's remind ourselves that AstraZeneca are very busy convening global health leaders to accelerate action on climate. So we very much have a partnership with King Charles. And for those of you that are watching No Smoke, the Green King, you might find this interesting because, of course, AstraZeneca and Sir Pascal are part of King Charles's climate task force. So staying on vaccines, the UK HSA have just published or posted the latest video on children's vaccines. And what I find so disturbing about this very short video is this is children as trusted messengers promoting vaccines to other children. Let's have a look.
Our generation's risk of illnesses, like measles and whooping cough, is rising.
If we're not vaccinated,
We're not protected.
and could get seriously ill.
Risk of lifelong disabilities. Are your child's vaccines up to date?
I find that advert very disturbing. And just to conclude this health segment, Sir Christopher Whitty, our Chief Medical Officer, has been popping up again at Gresham, and he's been delivering a lecture, this time, as we had warned you just before Christmas. He's busy talking about earthquakes, tsunamis and volcanoes. And in particular, he was focusing on the UK. And with regards to earthquakes, he says that earthquakes can occur in many places, but most are small. And we do have a few small earthquakes in the UK, but he felt the need to highlight that. And then he also wanted to focus on tsunamis and tsunamis in Cornwall. So as I'm in Cornwall, I better be careful, hadn't I? And he was referring to the Cumbre Vella volcano in the Canary Islands. But let's just look at or listen to what he had to say, a very short clip from his lecture.
So the tsunami that occurred in Indonesia was the largest one in recorded history, but they've occurred multiple times through history. They're most well described in Japan, which actually named tsunamis. But you can also get tsunamis occurring in Europe, and I've just chosen the Lisbon tsunami of 1755. So this was a major earthquake followed by a tsunami, and the tsunami went through Portugal, out to the Azores, went along North Africa, France, and actually hit Cornwall, where it was described as having a wave of about 3 meters, still very large, and great loss of life. Numbers are not clear. So you can certainly get tsunamis affecting here. In deeper history, we've had very major tsunamis occurring in the UK, for example, from landslides in Norway, falling off large mountains. The Canary Islands, in theory, could cause a tsunami at the other side of the UK. So any country that has got a coast potentially is at risk of tsunami from somewhere else.
Debbie, I think that Chris Whitty, as Chief Scientific Officer, should be more worried about the tsunami of poo that comes out of our water companies these days.
I have a lot to say on poo. Maybe we can talk about it in extra. But what does Chris Whitty know that we don't, perhaps?
Good question. Okay.